Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Last-minute shoppers and folks looking for stocking stuffers, you can pick up gift cards, among many other things, at Games and Things. It's a great idea. Scott and Lisa Mellon and all their team want to wish all of our viewers a very, very Merry Christmas this week. All right. So, if Pruitt gets ousted, is Phillip Fulmer retained? Is Phillip Fulmer, if he is retained, allowed to pick the next coach on his own? Is there a search committee that they hire? Do they form a committee here, which they did last time? I've seen people this week saying, you put Peyton on the committee? It's like, well, Peyton was on the committee last time. He was part of the ones that signed off on Schiano. So.
Because that's on the committee where they hired John Curry.
Yeah. So that whole let's get a committee with Peyton on it, people, they've already had him. You didn't like him. So my question is, where does Tennessee go? If Pruitt's out, what's the future for Phillip Fulmer in this next choice?
I think he stays. I think he still has enough support from the administration. Now, he might throw his hands up and say, I don't want any more of this, although there's a paycheck coming his way for the next few years, so that might offset that. But I think that he would stay. I don't think the decision would be his alone as far as going to a new head coach. Maybe they do have a committee. Maybe Peyton Manning's on it, maybe Charlie Anderson, who knows who might be on that committee. But I do think, and I don't think they'll go hire a search firm, but I think there would be an internal committee that would be assigned.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll definitely have some say. I think it's a matter of sort of, I think what he wants to do, depending on how this sort of Pruitt situation goes down, will have a lot of influence on how step 2 goes down. And, I think it does come down, we talked about earlier in the show, it comes down to what do you value more, Pruitt's job or your own? And I think that the answer to that question is fairly clear.
Yes, I think so. I think we can look on Phillip Fulmer's career and figure that one out.
Which is also a question the next coach would be asking, right? What is the leadership of the athletic department? Who's my boss for the next 3 to 5 years if I'm going to be your coach?
That's a great point, especially considering, Phillip Fulmer is, age-wise, how long does he want to do this? He talked about that when he took the job. How long do I want to stay on this? So if you're a coach, that one thing you worry about is, am I going to be working for the guy that hired me or not? That's another little tidbit. That's a good one.
And I think, too, one sort of overlooked thing of this investigation, not to derail the discussion, but if it's internal and it's looking to oust the guy, if I'm a coach and I'm looking at this situation, I might have some pause.
Oh, and then combine that with what happened the last time around. I mean, this wasn't the hottest job in the country to begin with. Then you had a coach who took a job, and then the fan base and politicians rose up and said no. Coaches probably didn't like that, as you saw from the pool dwindled. Now you throw this in. Yeah, this job just looks better all the time.
The last 24 hours have added to questions that coaches would be asking about what's going on in Knoxville.
Now, the interesting thing is people always say, well, if you spend money, Tennessee's offered big money. Hadn't worked. They've offered big money to big-name coaches, and it hasn't worked. Let me ask you, Jimmy, very quickly, bowl scenario. Now, there's a possibility Tennessee decides, let's go ahead and slap ourselves with a bowl ban. Who knows if the NCAA would accept that or not. But if you're going to do that, you have to be quick. The timing of this whole thing is very unusual because the bowls are going to be announced today. It's still possible this afternoon that Tennessee's on the list to go. Pruitt says we're going to go. David, you said that the players, you wrote that the players suggested that they feel like going.
Kennedy said that that the players were in favor of it. I've heard kind of mixed things, but ultimately I don't know the players are going to have a ton of influence on this call. I think Tennessee's going to a bowl game.
Jimmy, here's my question. Well, if they have a head coach, they will.
Even if not.
Question. Liberty has been talked about. Music City has been talked about. Birmingham has been talked about. Some others have too, but those are the three that keep getting kicked around the most. I know that you spoke with someone with the Liberty Bowl, and that gave you a feeling that they're kind of top of the list?
Absolutely. I talked with Steve Earhart, and they want Tennessee. They want them bad. There's a lot of connections. Tennessee hasn't played in the Liberty Bowl since 1986 when they played Minnesota. It's been a long time. There's UT Med School there. There's nursing school there. There are a lot of alums there. And they feel like Tennessee would be a team that they would covet. They want them. Now, whether they get them or not remains to be seen. But he said that would be at the top of their list. They would really like to get Tennessee. Of course, the SEC makes that assignment, but they would want Tennessee. And I asked him about the finances of it. And he said, well, given the situation, there's a chance that the regular payouts that you get would be reduced. But the 3 major sponsors are still on board, and they would allow 12 to 13,000 fans there.
Now, if you don't go, to a bowl, the SEC is not going to give you your bowl payout. All right. That shared, it's about $2 million is what it looks like. So we're not talking $20 million or something here. So we're talking a couple million. It's not huge. The interesting thing, though, if Tennessee walks away from it and says, no, we don't want the money, that's one thing. If they accept it, say they're going, and then decide to make a move on Pruitt, I can't imagine they would go to the bowl with who's coaching it? To get Chaney to do the interim again? I can't imagine if you fire Pruitt, you do a bowl game, which would mean you would back out after you've accepted. I would think the SEC would really frown upon that.
What did Wisconsin do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Barry Alvarez.
No, I think even
So
if they
Phillip
even if they
Fulmer
make
could
a
walk
move,
in and coach him himself.
even if they make a move, I think Tennessee. I mean, I think they are cruising for the bowls. Regardless of whatever happens here, they're. I'll be shocked if you don't see Tennessee playing in a bowl game, regardless of what happens.
All right, very good. When we come back, let's talk about the actual. Man, we've covered it all today. We've even got Fulmer back on the sideline. Yes, we got bingo. Somebody at home just yelled bingo.
We can find more stuff, Joe.
We got 30 more minutes to do it. All right. When we come back, let's talk about the actual game yesterday, and more importantly, moving forward, the quarterback position. Who's your quarterback going into spring? We'll ask these guys who they would put there. Come on back on the Sports Source.